lectures from you. And I think we'll learn, even if we learned the fraction of what you told us, it's a good opportunity to express our version. I think it's a good idea. I'll be very happy to do that.
Sure. Thank you, Rameshji. Thank you. Yeah, just learning to express this idea. We do present ideas in various forums, but this also we need to learn to think through and express it. So I think it's a very good exercise. Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions? Yeah, Rukmini ji, go ahead.
Jaykumarji, this Sarati and Charati both are same. Chammach wala Charati.
Yeah, Chamat Charati. Yeah, so I think both have the same meaning. So we need to look into the dictionary, Amara Kosha, etc. One day say, but they have similar meaning. I won't say same meaning, similar meaning. And somehow they've chosen the word Sri for samsara, surya, etc. And Charati, they say, for literal movement. And when a person actually does it, they say Charati. So they use that word. So they have reserved that word for that, for really meaning actions and things that the person does.
Guruji, Charati is moving slowly, like Sanaihi Charati, it is Sanai Charati.
No, Shanaihi is different. We don't need to bring Shanaihi here. And Charati means motion, etc. So just because that is Shanaihi Charati. What you are saying is Shanaihi Charati.
Shanaihi is again an adjective to Charati.
The slowness comes from Shanaihi, it doesn't come from Charati.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, Vijay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Guruji, question is, so Atma is Nirvikalpa, nothing touches the Atma, right? But somewhere Bhagavan also said that whatever that you do in this lifetime, the progress spiritually that you are making, next life you start from where you left off, right? Now, so I understand that this mind or all that also gets bundled and moves along, right? When you cross over. So is that what determines the next? There is now no role of the Atma in this. Atma remains the same for everyone in every birth. Is that right to understand?
Correct. There is no role for Atma except providing sustenance to everything, except existence. That's it. That's the only role. And that's the nature of Atma. It cannot make things happen. It cannot make things happen. Then it becomes a maker. It has kartrutvam. So no, it does not have that kartrutvam. And so what you mentioned is that Ushitva Shashwati Samaha Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Bhrashto Vijayate. That is an answer to Arjuna's question that, after I go, I love this and I'm going to pursue this Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. What happens if I suddenly die? That's a very interesting question by Arjuna. And so, yeah, Krishna assures Arjuna that you will pick up the thread. You'll pick up the thread. And that's reasonable too. It's not hard to believe that. It's a belief, but at the same time, it's not a wide belief. Correct? It's understandable. Yeah. Okay. Who else? Mahesh ji, go ahead.
You explained the samsara, and in that samsara, samyak sarati, and then you said you compared sun, Surya. But the fact that sun moves itself is a perception, that is ajnana, right? So how can you compare that to that? Because Shastra says that sun doesn't move; it is the earth which moves.
Yeah. So I said that to highlight the meaning of that word Sri and Suryaha, and then here also Sarati, Samyak Sarati, Samsaraha. That's the only reason I said. But here also motion like the sun. Here also the jiva is constantly moving. constantly moving from one birth to another birth. That's the meaning of Samyak Sarati, really speaking. So constantly moving. Person dies, person comes back, person comes back, dies, comes back, dies, comes back. That's the Saranam. That is the Saranam here that we are talking about. So like the sun, that's the way to look at it. Like the sun keeps rising and setting and rising and setting and rising. Okay. Therefore, samsara.
Another question is about the the akarma. In karma we see, where there is no akarma, we see karma. I thought one example could be like a person thinking about something. Okay, say like beginning of a day, you spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes to see what you want to accomplish or what you want to do. To an outsider, you may look as if you are not doing anything, but you are doing a lot of work to thinking and planning or whatever. So is that an example of?
Yeah, definitely. So akarma, because the common idea of actionlessness is simply sitting doing nothing, right?
Okay.
So that if you take that as inaction, akarma, then, but really speaking, the person has thought through a lot. That first 15 minutes of the day is the most important 15 minutes of the day, actually. So yeah, fair enough. That's also a good example. Yeah, Narsimha.
Namaste, Mahodaya. I have two questions. One is related with the chit. We said it as unqualified knowledge. So, wanted to understand for what is that we call it as unqualified. So, that is the first question. The second question I have is the vichara and loka vyavahara that we do is what we call it as vritti marga. So, how do we define the pravritti marga, or how do you really differentiate pravritti and vritti marga? Those are the two questions. And
Yeah.
another doubt that I had when Mahesh ji brought up this was planning and other things. Can we call it as a karma? Uh, but when we are still meditating and doing the things, that we still have some kamyartha to be achieved. In that case, how can that be a karma?
Okay, last question first. Mental action is karma, and it's a mental action. Planning is a mental action. So action doesn't mean you got to do this, go to the gym and. No, that is, who says that is also an action, no doubt. But sitting quietly and then planning things out, that's also an action, mental action. And so we consider that to be karma also. That's the third question. First question is chit. What is this idea of chit being unqualified knowledge, right? So that knowledge, when you say I know something, then that something has some attributes, has some qualities. You must define what is it you know. You must define at least what is it you see. Suppose you say I see, oh, I see Jupiter. So bright. Is that the bright one on the sky? Yes. Jupiter, you saw it. So you must be able to, something happened in your mind. Okay. You have some knowledge of the Jupiter in the night sky, in the southern sky or wherever. And so you saw it. So the possibility of knowledge is the chit. Okay. That which makes you know whatever you want to know is chit. Okay. Unqualified. Why? Because the minute you qualify it, then it's going to be some specific knowledge which you're going to say, I know this, I know that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's why unqualified. Now, second question. Second question is vritti versus pravritti. Correct? I hope I got your questions correct. So vritti versus pravritti. So vritti, there's no connection between vritti and pravritti. In the sense, at least in the way we are saying it. Vritti is that thought modification. A thought modification is called vritti, which makes you say, yes, I heard somebody knocking the door. Yeah, vritti. Something happened. That's a vritti. It's a modification. Something happened in your mind, which makes you recognize it. Yes, somebody knocked on the door. Correct? So that's a vritti. So anything, you're able to recognize things and perceive things only because there is a vritti constantly happening. Everything is associated. And that word that we use for something that happened in your mind is called vritti. Okay. Pravritti. Pravritti means pursuit, positive movement. You're going towards something is called a pravritti. You're going towards anything. You have a goal, small goal, big goal. I am thirsty, therefore drinking water. That drinking water is called pravritti. It's something that makes you, the process of going towards something is called pravritti. The process of accomplishing something is called pravritti. That accomplishment can be minute, small. Oh, I have to take a breath. Yeah, that's a pravritti also. Or I have to plan for my children's education. That's a 20-year-old, 20-year-long pravritti. 20-year-long pravritti. Our lives are all spent on all these things. And so, yeah, pravritti. That's called pravritti. Okay.
Clear, clear, Mahodaya.
And
Dhanyawad.
I have a question for you. How's your health?
It's better, Mahodaya. Feeling lot better. Lot better. Yeah. Thank you.
So you were fatigued from the COVID infection for a long time, correct?
Correct. Mahodaya. Now I'm on herbals and other Ayurvedic things, which is getting me into normal routine. And also the deficiencies like the lower level of B12, D3, those also added to the complexity. So that was also causing more fatigue for me, but now a lot better after the things. There was once I got complete detoxed, so that helped me to cope up very well.
So complete detox means the Ayurvedic detox, you
Yeah.
mean? So you got that the what is it called?
It's around 10 days. They have a set routine as to what should be the food intake and what all the other things that we had to do as part of our daily routine. So that helped me a lot to get onto normal.
Very good, very good. Welcome back. Very nice to have you
Thanks.
back.
Dhanyawad.
Yeah, Ramesh ji, go ahead.
Kumarji, in continuation of Vritti, when you during your discussion, you discussed Vritti, example, you gave psychology or something. Vritti means a profession. And in context of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, that Vritti is different than the Vritti, if I understand right. Vritti is in two meanings here. One is a profession. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Could you please explain that? Always I have some problem with that.
Yeah. So the word vritti we are using here is essentially something that has changed in your mind. Something that has changed your mind. So you're listening to me, you're looking at me. Suddenly I show you this. Okay. And you say, yeah, I know what it is. It's a clock. Then what happened? Something has changed in your mind. And the change is in keeping with the object I showed you. Okay. You recognized it. So that whole thought process, that modification of the mind, if I can call it, that modification is called a vritti. So if this is called a ghati, then we say you have a ghati vritti. You got a ghati vritti in your mind. So that is how we say it in Vedanta. So vritti is essentially a thought modification, which is connected to the object of your thought. Object of your thought can be literally a physical object like this, which you have seen, or it can be a sound. You're listening, closing your eyes and listening to some music, constant vritti happening. And suddenly it reminded you of some olden days where you listened to the song, and that olden days vritti is happening. My school days vritti is happening, and on and on. This is all vritti, constant change, correct? If the vritti doesn't change, then what? Then means you can't know anything new. You're stuck. I'm stuck with a particular thought. No, that's the only thought there, and no other thought, because vritti is not changing. Another thought has come means vritti. So thought modification, if you want to call, just a translation of the word vritti. Therefore, chitta vritti nirodha, Yoga Sutra. Okay, nirodha, absence of, mastery of, okay, elimination of, correct? Elimination of what? Vritti. Vritti, a thought modification. Chitta vritti, is clear. Chitta, mind. Elimination of all thoughts in your mind. So there the vritti is same as the vritti we are talking about here. So same definition of vritti. So there they say the elimination of all thoughts in your mind is important. Is important. It can't be talked as moksha. Chitta vritti nirodha cannot be moksha. Because there are many people who can eliminate thoughts in their mind. But it's a sadhana. If you can master your thoughts, if you can really say, yes, I can make sure I can come to a point where I can eliminate thoughts. I can be thoughtless, in other words. That's an amazing thing, accomplishment, because we are trying to meditate. You know how difficult meditation is, right? So just we try to think of one thing. We slowly kind of come from the outside world and come to our body and come to our mind and then focus on a particular thought and then see if we can remain in that thought. That's meditation. Chitta vritti nirodha is, okay, meditate and then eliminate that thought also. It's a sadhana, it's an exercise. And Vedanta will say that is not moksha. Chitta vritti nirodha is not moksha. Because there's no connection between chitta vritti nirodha and ajnana. Ajnana will still be there. I'm ignorant before, when I had all kinds of thoughts. Now I removed all thoughts. Now what? Am I a wise person? That is the idea. Chitta vritti nirodha. And then pravritti, I think you asked a related question, right? An occupation, something like that you said.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the pravritti. So that's the process of accomplishing what you want to accomplish. It can be a small, minute thing, or it can be a big thing.
Usually, vritti also refer to what is your vritti, means and the occupation like that. But chitta vritti is beautifully explained. And when you attain the chitta vritti nirodha, it is also called like a samadhi. Is it the same? Not the moksha.
Correct. Samadhi. So they will nirvikalpa samadhi. Like that, they will use the word. Correct. Samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi. Why nirvikalpa samadhi? Vikalpa means change. Nirvikalpa means absence of change of vritti. Vritti is not there, so there is no change of vritti at all. Therefore, nirvikalpa samadhi. Correct?
That is our goal of meditation, right?
That is sadhana, and that can be an end result of meditation. Yeah. We won't say call it a goal of meditation. And our meditation is not chitta vritti nirodha meditation. Our meditation is focusing on saguna brahma vishaya manasa vyaparaha. I'll explain it another day. And so manasa vyaparaha, it is a mental occupation. Meditation is a mental activity where we think about and about saguna brahma, means Ishvara, Bhagavan. That is the meaning. So you can practice nirvikalpa samadhi. That is not difficult. Once you do meditation properly, nirvikalpa samadhi will be there. Even during meditation, nirvikalpa samadhi can happen. Okay, but that's not our goal. Nirvikalpa samadhi is not our goal. It will happen automatically. Thoughtless mind. And that's beautiful. That means you are in charge of yourself. That is when you can really say you are in charge of yourself. Correct?
Yes.
Because then the thoughts also are seeking your permission to enter your head. That's when you are really in charge of yourself. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Good question. Okay, Prasad, go ahead.
Thank you.
Jaykumarji, my question is from the Vedantic perspective, I think I want to understand, like, ignorance is not the absence of knowledge. Can you please explain that?
Yeah. Ignorance is not the absence of knowledge. The question is this: ignorance should not be understood as absence of knowledge, and it should be understood as opposed to knowledge. Ignorance is opposed to knowledge. And so already we have a clue in today's class. We said Chit is unqualified knowledge. Chit is always there. So in a way, you can never say there is no knowledge. You can only say there is no specific knowledge. But knowledge, that unqualified knowledge is always there. That is Chit. That is the nature of, that is Atma. Atma Chit. And opposed to knowledge, so that ignorance, like the darkness is opposed to light. Opposed to light. So sometimes darkness, this example may not be the best example, because darkness is absence of light. People can argue that. So that example may not fit well. But ignorance, for sure, it clouds the knowledge. So we say it's like the clouds that are covering the sun. That's a better example. And it doesn't mean the sun doesn't exist. Sun disappeared at 10 in the morning. Sun disappeared. No, sun did not disappear. It is just temporarily blocked by clouds or by an eclipse. By the moon, it's blocked. Okay, that's the way we look at it. Okay.
I have another question. I just thought of noting down so that I can put it in a coherent fashion. So when you look at the inaction and action part, right? So he who's in action sees it as action. So the inaction here refers to from the standpoint of the self, right? The inaction is seen here from the standpoint of the self. For example, I mean, in the metaphor, like when the screen is there and the movie is on, now action is there, but screen is actually in action. So if I touch it, it's still in action. Now, similarly, he who in action sees it as action, right? The second corollary of that. Now, from the standpoint of who realizes, right? I mean, Atma, the self, the action in the dynamic universe, because the universe, there's always action going on in the dynamic universe. Now, the action in the dynamic universe is seen within the inaction of the consciousness. So I'm talking from the person who realized it, from his perspective. So the action in the dynamic universe, is it seen as inaction from the conscious perspective? In other words, is this a possible interpretation? We can say that because I understand that in absolute perspective, there is no action at all, right? Now, from the standpoint of the person who understands, who realizes, if I see the action, for him, there is inaction. If I see inaction, for him, there is action, the other way. So having said this from the perspective of a realized person, but he also sees action in inaction in the self. So from this dynamic world, what I'm thinking is that there should be a relative action within that person who is realized self, and that would be seen within the self.
So action is superimposed on Atma. Action is so dynamic world. When you look at the world where everything is moving, there's nothing stationary, and so action is constant, and that action is sustained by Atma, which is Akarta, which is actionless. Okay, that is correct. That is, so it is, action rests on inaction. Action rests on Atma. Okay, and same with the body also. Action is superimposed on inaction. I project action on inaction. That's a mistake. And I don't know that Atma is Akarta, Atma is actionless. And therefore, there is a projection that happens. And yeah, for a wise person, you talked about a wise person. And so for that person, the person knows this fact that the body lot of actions happen with the mind and the body. Okay. But I am a non-doer. I as an Atma. And therefore actions are done, no doubt. And the mind is there, the body is there, all the instruments are operating, and results will come for the actions I do. But then one thing is there. For the onlooker, results are happening, things are happening, no different. The wise person is not different than any other person from an onlooker's perspective, correct? No different. But then the karma phala, punya papam doesn't happen, doesn't accrue at all for this person. And therefore, that person is different, different in the sense that Krishna karma krit, no more karma phalam. And what about the existing karma phalam? That also is gone. Because there is no karta, there is no owner. The owner is dead and gone. Karta is gone. And therefore, nobody to own up the karma phala of the past and the future.
From the relative point of view, where even again in the Vyavaharika world, for example, if he's standing at Paramatika, I understand, okay, there is no action in action. But he's subjected to action, the relative dynamism day to day. For that person who is self-realized, now the action in action is actually, he is seeing action as inaction and inaction as action. So from the self perspective, still it is action and inaction within the self. That was what I was trying to correlate to.
So he sees action in inaction, and he sees action as inaction. That's what you said. Okay. So I want to correct that. He doesn't see action as inaction. If he sees action as inaction, then he's a fool. He's not a wise person. Because action is action. Inaction is inaction. So I show this, and the wise person, anybody has to say these are glasses, eyeglasses. They can't say this is a car. Person says this is a car. No, that is not wisdom at all. So one must see action as action, inaction as inaction. Okay. First, we should know that. But then, in addition to seeing action as action, the person says, I see inaction in action. Inaction in action. Okay. So inaction in action means despite all the actions that are happening, that Atma is akarta, actionless. And I am that Atma, and I am not an actor. I am actionless. I am akarta. There is no doership at all. This is why we say, a wise person has no free will. Can we understand that statement? Wise person has no free will. Is it possible? Well, something to think about. I don't want to impose it on you now, but think about it. Free will means what? And what happens to a wise person? Free will means that there's agency. Agency. I will do this, I will not do that. Well, a wise person also has that. But that's an enlightened free will. Enlightened free will, which is very different from the free will that others have. We'll have another opportunity to discuss that. But so we don't say action, the person sees action as inaction. That's a wrong statement. Action is seen as action. Inaction is seen as inaction. That's it. No doubt about that. But the person sees more than that. Sees more than that. And number two, person sees inaction in action. When we say, when that akarta atma is seen, akartra atma is seen in action. Okay, that is how the person sees karmani akarma darshan. Then what about akarmani karma darshan? In inaction, how does he see action? When atma is akarta, is always in action. How can you see action then? Well, that is the relative standpoint. When people say, I don't do anything or they don't do anything, she's quiet and he's quiet, and you say, well, in that quietness, the person sees action. That's all. So there the Atma is not involved. The topic of Atma is not involved in that, correct? That is just pure understanding of our own relative world. Correct? In action, I see inaction, all this, it's getting confusing here. Then they'll say, Jaykumarji, what is all this? Inaction. And then the questions also come like that. Now I get confused after that. So when somebody does action, in that action, person sees inaction. Means what? That Atma is Akarta is understood by that person. That much I think you're clear. Now, when somebody says, I am not doing anything, in that inaction, in that so-called inaction, in quotes, the person sees action because the person knows very much. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma karma. Impossible for any person to say, I'm not doing anything. Because actions always happen. Yeah.
In fact, there is more action there. I have understanding that, yes, there is in fact more action when I'm doing meditation than when I'm doing other action in the world.
Yeah, you can decide. If that's the way you decide, that's true. But action is there. More or less, we're not that concerned about, but action is there. Good. Vijay, go ahead.
Sorry, we are not getting late, no?
What time is it? It's 8:05. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Guruji, till the stage we are able to probably realize the self and see it as a karta. Sometime back we spoke about Prakriti also contributing to the actions we do, meaning our gunas, right? Rajogun, Tamogun, Satogun. So those are causing the actions, right? If a person can see that these actions are, I'm not the doer, it's happening because of the Prakriti. As a starting step, that helps us to realize the inaction in action. Action is happening because of Prakriti. I'm not the doer. It's all happening because of the gunas that are there inside. Would that be a starting step to realizing that seeing inaction in action?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. These are all connected topics. These are not disconnected topics. Yes, absolutely. So, Prakriti Jair Gunaihi. So, Karmendriya Karma Yogam. So, therefore, Asaktasya Vishishyate. Therefore, he says Asaktaha. Therefore, he says, understanding that fact that things happen. I don't know how things happen. Even I don't know why I think like this. Suppose somebody asks, why do you think like that? Means what? What can you say? This is how it is. This is how I am. What can I do? And why are you a doctor? Why are you a doctor means what kind of question is the person is retired? Like Ramesh. I'm thinking of Ramesh. Why did you become a doctor? I became a doctor because some opportunity was there. I did this and that, and I took up this med school there, etc. Okay, that is fine. But why did you do what you did? Why did you do what you did? Why did you choose that college and that MBBS? Why not when you got an opportunity to do BCom, commerce, you did not take? No, salary is better. No, our Ramesh will not say that, but I'm just giving an example. Okay, better salary with doctors. Okay, better salary. So why did you think like that? Why did you think of salary instead of something else? Social service. No, I don't have an answer. At some point, I will not have an answer. Prakriti Jayir Gunai. So correct, absolutely. Short answer to your question is yes, Prakriti, because understanding Prakriti, understanding that things happen because of the way I am set up, the world is set up, helps me see that distance between Atma and actions. Yeah. Yeah, Prasad, you had a question again? No.
No, it was
any other questions? Okay. So we'll pause with this now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalasahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Yeah, those who want to stay back,